Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. So today we are going to continue with systems of equations and we're going to talk about writing systems now. So for the rest of the week, we're going to be writing systems. If we've been given like a table, how do we write the equations? If we've been given a graph, how do we write equations? And then we're going to look at tomorrow, how do we write them if we've been given like a word problem, like a real life problem. So quick reminder here, in a couple of weeks, so that last week, so like December the 14th or the 18th, that's the last week before we get out for Christmas, we have semester exams at the high school. So you must currently have been passing, you have to have passed for the first 9 weeks and be passing, currently passing your class to be exempt from that class's semester exam. So keep that in mind. So you need to pull your grade up if you're not currently passing in order to be exempt from semester exams. They probably will publish the list on Monday, and that's who will be exempt. So make sure you're getting your grade pulled up and getting in any missing work that needs to be turned in. Another reminder that you need to keep in mind is that we will do map testing again next week. And I don't know if you're at home, then you probably remember having to go to a certain website and put like your test code and stuff in. So we will do that again. It's going to be mandatory for all students. We're at home and on campus. So we'll be looking for information on that. That's going to start December the 14th. You'll either have to log in during your class period. So like if you have me fourth period, you're going to have to be online during fourth period for me to administer the test, or you have to come up to the school and take it on a specified day. But I'll get all that information out to you guys soon. So keep those things in mind. Okay, so for today, if you go to Canvas and go to the modules page, what you've got is the video you're watching and then this assignment right here. So I'm going to actually have to leave student view for this to come up. So this is a Google slide. So if you click that link, it'll open it full screen so you can work on it. So there's not that many problems actually. There's like 7 problems. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a couple of them with you to show you some of the examples. And then I'm going to leave the rest for you to work. So I'm going to work number 1 with you. This is a table. And then I'm probably also going to work, I'm going to work number 5. With you. So I'm actually going to work this on the iPad so I can write on it, but you would type your answer choice here, A, B, C, or D, and then we're going to find the solution. So remember yesterday we practiced finding solutions to systems. So now we want to figure out, say we're given a table of values. How do we actually identify which of these equations, first of all, matches this system? So these tables represent 2 equations. And then what is the solution? So remember, we use Desmos to help us do this. So we're building off of what we did yesterday, but now we have to actually figure out the equations first and then find the solution. Remember, finding the solution is not hard if you can graph them in Desmos. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So let me bring up my iPad here. Okay, so we want to start with number 1. So what's different about this table here is that it just looks different, right? It's got 3 columns, and we're used to seeing tables that have X column and a Y column. So if they give you a table and it's not labeled for you, it's important to remember that they always give you X first. Then sometimes they'll give you a table, and for instance, like this one right here, number 2, they label one column Y1 and one column Y2. So if they haven't already labeled it for you, you can label it like that. So what we need to do is actually write the equations from a table. So remember, anytime you see a table, you should think calculator, stat, edit. So you should pull up the TI-84 calculator app that's on your Chromebook. Let me have to minimize this. Like this right here. And I'm going to actually push it over here so we can see the table. I just can't write on this one. So you're going to go to Stat, and we're going to go to Edit. Because if we have a table, the calculator will give us the equation for the table. So that's what we want to do. So we want to put our X values, remember, always in list 1. Well, we said that this first column is our x values. So I'm going to type them in 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 and 25. Make sure I typed those in correctly. I think I did. Now, in list 2, we put our y values. But what they've done is they've given you x and y values for a system of equations all in one table. They just combined it all in one. So those are my x values. And my y values for my first equation is right here, the tickets purchased. So I would type those in first. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I am not going to put the food purchased in list 3. I'm going to wait because that's y values for a second equation. So these are x and y values for my first equation. So I go back now. These are not new steps. We've done this. Stat, go over to calculate, and I want option number 4. That's a linear regression. And then remember, you can hit enter until it's flashing on calculate, or you can arrow down. Boom, there it is right there. So this is giving me the a value and the b value. So my a value is 0.2, that's what goes in front of x, and my b value is 0. So let me bring back up my iPad so I can actually write on it. So my first equation, I'm going to call it y1, is 0.2x plus 0. But remember, we don't actually have to write the 0, the plus 0. It doesn't change anything. So I could just write 0.2x. Okay. Now let's do our second equation. So I come over here. Oh, I forgot I have to minimize here. And I go back to stat and I hit enter for edit because I want to edit my list. So my x values are going to stay the same because this was my x values. Now I just have to change out this second column to the food purchase. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So right now, so they've given you x values for both equations. So now I want to use my second set of y values, and that's going to give me my second equation. So you have to remember that. If they give you a table like this, you have to remember that x is always first, and then these are your first y's, these are your second y's. So I go back to stat now, I go over to calculate, and I'm going to choose option number 4. So you can arrow down or you can hit enter, or you can just actually type 4 and click the 4. And then you have to keep going down. So you're on calculate, hit enter, and there it is. So this one is 0.4, and my b value is still 0. So let's write that equation, plugging in all the pieces here. So for my second equation, I get 0.4x. So I've written both equations. So now I want to look over here on the right, and I want to see if there's any that match it. Well, it looks like D matches, but I'm looking really closely at the signs, and I'm seeing that those have negative symbols in front of them. So it can't be D because the ones I got are positive. None of the other ones are decimals. I'm seeing fractions instead. Aha. So what I probably need to do is convert my decimals to fractions. So remember, the calculator will do that. I have 0.2. So if I pull my calculator back up, hit clear, I can type in my decimal 0.2. Then I hit the math button and I hit enter, enter. That is telling me it's the fraction 1/5. My other decimal was 0.4. Hit the math button again, hit enter, enter. So that is the fraction 2/5. So I'm actually looking for y equals 1/5 x and y equals 2/5 x, because that's what these decimals are equivalent to, those fractions. I see that one, it's B. So over here, you would type B as your answer choice. It says, what is the value of the solution to the system? What is the x value of the solution? So now we've got to think back to what we did yesterday. I have two equations, and I can use either one of them, the one with the decimals or the one with the fractions, and I need the solution to that system. Well, that's where they intersect. So this is where we go to Desmos. Remember, your Desmos link, well, I'm not in Student View anymore, but it's actually down here at the bottom of Canvas, your Canvas page. Oh, it's actually here, but mine looks different because I'm not on Student View anymore. But click there and go to Desmos. So I can either type in the one with the fraction or the one with the decimals. Either one works. And I had 2/5 x. Those are my two equations. And I'm looking and I'm seeing right here, I'm zooming in just to make sure, yep, that's where they're crossing. They are actually crossing at the origin. So the solution is 0, 0. A 0 for x and 0 for y. If I plug in that, that's the only solution to this equation. So, but notice it asked me not for the whole solution, which is 0, 0. It just wants the x value of the solution. And our x value is 0 because it was the origin, the point 0, 0. So that's what it wanted on that one. Okay, so this is what we need to do. Now, number 2, exactly the same thing. You're going to be typing in x's and your y1s, get an equation. Then type in your x column. It should leave that same x column. And instead of y1s, this time type in the y2s in your L2, your list 2. Then get your second equation. Go through the same steps. It's again asking you for the x value of the solution to the system. It doesn't want the whole point. It just wants to know what the x value is. Number 3, a table again. But this time they've given you 2 separate tables. So use the table for line K, get an equation. Then do your table for line P, get a second equation. You're just doing stat edit 2 times on these. And this one didn't ask you to solve it. It just wants you to identify which of these is the equations. Now, what if we've been given something like number 4? 4, they've given us a graph, and they said, which one of these are equations that are the solution? And then what is the solution? Well, right now, we could look at the graph and figure out the solution because it's that point right there where your lines are crossing. So I'm not going to give you, I think you can look right now and you could tell me the solution to the system. Remember, the ordered pairs are x first and then y. So x comma y is your solution. The ordered pair, the coordinates of that point right there. The easiest way that I think, if your equation, your answer choices are already solved for y, I think the easiest thing to do is just to go through and type in both equations of A into Desmos. See if they match your picture. If they don't, cross it out. Move on to B. Go to B. Type in those 2 equations into Desmos. See if they match your picture. If they don't, move on. Find them that way. That's the easiest way to solve a problem like this when your equations are solved for y, because Desmos will graph them for you. It's so easy. Let Desmos give you the picture. However, I want to work number 5 because I'm looking over here and I can see that my answer choices, well, they're not solved for y, are they? X and y are on the same side. These equations are what we call in standard form. So Desmos is not going to graph these answer choices for me. So we're kind of going to work backwards here. It's asking me which of these equations represents the solution, represents this system of equations, and then it's asking me what is the solution to the system. Well, I know, remember, that the solution is where those 2 points are crossing. Those 2 lines are crossing each other. It's that point where they intersect. So I could find the coordinates of that point. I'm looking and I can see that my x value is going to be 0 because I'm on the y-axis, and I go down -2. So there's my solution right there. My solution is 0, -2. Boom. Easy to find. So remember, this is in the form x, y. You always put your x value first in your point. So here's what I think is the easiest thing to do to find which one of these equations represents those 2 lines with a solution of 0, -2. So remember that the solution means you can take those values for x and y, plug them back into your equations, and you're going to get true statements. Remember, like what we did yesterday when we were solving the first one in our notes. I plugged that point back in to prove to you that it was the solution to the system. So if any of these equations actually represent that system with that solution, we should be able to plug in 0 for x in all of the equations and -2 for y and get a true statement. So let's do that. That's probably going to be the easiest way. Your other option would be to take all of your answer choices, take both of the equations in A, solve them for y, and then graph them in Desmos. And you could do that too. If you like solving for y, if you're good at it, then try that. Solve them for y, graph them in Desmos. But you may like this way better. So remember, 0 is x and negative 2 is y. So I would take this first equation right here, and everywhere there's x, I'm going to put a 0 plus 2 times, well, my y value is negative 2. Okay, I'm actually going to rewrite this in a different color because I want you guys to see what I'm doing here. So I'm taking this equation, I have x here, I'm going to plug in 0 for it, plus 2 times, well, what is my y value? My y value is negative 2. So everywhere there's x and y, I'm going to be plugging in a number. Then I'm going to work it out. 0 plus 2 times negative 2, well, that's 0 plus negative 4. Does that equal 2? No, it does not. So A cannot be the right answer. 0 plus negative 4 is negative 4, which does not equal 2. So that can't be the answer. That can't be the system. So I'm going to move on. I get to go all the way to B now. Let's try that one. I'm going to take 6, and I'm going to multiply it times my x value, which is 0. And then I'm going to add to it my y value, which is negative 2. And that's supposed to equal negative 4. Now notice all I did, actually I should have done this one in blue. All I did was take 0 and plug it in for x, and then I plugged in negative 2 for y. And I'm going to see if it's true. Okay, so when I simplify this one, I'm getting 6 times 0, which is 0, plus negative 2 equals negative 4. Well, 0 plus negative 2 is negative 2, which does not equal negative 4. So B cannot be an answer either. See how these are not working out? Okay, let's do it again. Let's move on to C. Okay, so for C, I'm going to plug in 0 for x here. So that's 0 plus 2 times whatever y is. I'm going to see if it equals negative 4. Well, for y, I'm going to plug in negative 2. Okay, so 0 plus 2 times negative 2. That's going to end up being 0 plus negative 4. Does that equal negative 4? Well, sure, because 0 plus negative 4 is just negative 4. Okay, so this one worked. But we can't stop there. We have to check the second one as well. So I'm going to move. I know this is a little messy. I'm going to move over here to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to say 6 times, what's my x value, whatever it is, minus my y value equals 2. Let's see if that works. Let me plug them in. So my x value is 0 minus my y value here, which is negative 2. So you have a negative and negative. That's okay. Well, 6 times 0 is 0. And then negative, negative becomes a positive. So that's saying 0 plus 2 equals 2. Oh, so that's just 2 equals 2. Hey, that works as well. So it looks to me like C is our answer choice. C is correct because it works for both of them. I don't really even need to check D. I could though, and I'm going to see that it's not going to be true. I can tell you right off because I'm looking to see if we plug in 0 right here, well, 2 times 0 is 0, and then I have to plug in negative 2 for y. Well, negative 2 does not equal negative 4, so that one's not going to work out either. So I think this is the simplest way to do these type of problems here. So you'll notice that's number 5. We got C as our answer for number 5. 6 is the same exact way. So I would start by finding my solution and then using the coordinates of those points, plugging them in and seeing which one is true. It is a little bit of work, but your other option, again, remember, is to solve each one of these equations in A, B, C, and D. So you have 8 equations, solve each one for y, and then graph them in Desmos. 7 is the same way. Find your solution and then plug in the values for x and y. Okay, so that's how you work problems like this. So we're not actually like writing the equations. What we're doing is we're seeing which of the equations do represent. But you are kind of writing equations from the graph because you're looking at the graph and trying to figure out these equations over here represent these 2 lines. And the solution is the point where they're intersecting. Okay, so practice some more on that. That gives you like 5 problems to practice on your own. And then let me know if you have any questions or if you're struggling or you need to schedule a video conference where we can work some of these together.